Imagine waking before sunrise in the silent streets of Kyoto, when the lanterns still glow and the modern world has not yet stirred. You are not a tourist. You are not an observer of history. You are a geisha. Your life is not your own. It is dedicated to beauty, mastery, and a tradition centuries in the Makingan that survives in the historic district of John, where art is not performed on a stage, but lived. You arrive before you fully understand what is happening. The journey itself feels longer than it truly is, as though each step away from your old life stretches time into something unfamiliar. The streets seem quieter here, narrower, shaped by wooden buildings that lean slightly toward one another, as if they are sharing secrets. You are led through a sliding door, and it closes behind you with a soft finality that feels louder than any sound you have heard all day. That quiet click is the moment your former world disappears. Inside, the air smells faintly of tatami straw, incense, and polished wood. Everything is ordered. Everything has its place. Shoes are removed without question. Voices are lowered automatically, even if no one has told you to speak softly. You quickly understand that this is not a house in the ordinary sense. It is a place governed by routine, hierarchy, and tradition so deeply embedded that no one explains it. They expect you to feel it. You are shown where to sit. Not where you choose to sit, but where you are placed. This distinction is small, yet it marks the first lesson. Choice is no longer yours to exercise freely. You watch as women move through the corridors with quiet efficiency. Their steps are short and measured, their backs straight, their expressions composed. No movement is wasted. Even the act of kneeling or rising is performed with care, as though it carries meaning beyond the physical action. Someone brings tea. You are not handed the cup casually, it is presented. You must receive it correctly. When you hesitate, unsure of what correctly means, a gentle but firm adjustment is made to your hands. Fingers align, wrists lower. The cup turns slightly. No one scolds you. No one praises you either. Instruction here is constant and emotionless, like the steady flow of water shaping stone. This is how your education begins, not with grand lessons, but with observation and correction. Your new home operates on rhythms you must learn to anticipate. Morning begins early, long before you would have woken in your previous life. You hear movement in the hallways, sliding doors opening, cloth brushing wood, the faint sound of sweeping. You are expected to rise immediately. There is no lingering between sleep and wakefulness. The day does not wait for you to gather yourself, you must catch up to it. Cleaning is among your first responsibilities. You sweep floors, wipe surfaces, fold fabrics, carry items from room to room. At first the tasks seem ordinary, but you soon realize they are performed according to specific methods. The direction you sweep matters. The way you hold a cloth matters. Even how you kneel to reach the floor matters. The goal is not simply to clean, but to move with awareness. Every action is training, whether labeled as such or not. You begin to understand that humility is cultivated through repetition. You are not being asked to clean because no one else can do it. You are being asked because this work reshapes your sense of self. Pride dissolves when every day begins with service. You learn to anticipate needs before they are spoken. A cushion adjusted, a door opened, a tray prepared. These gestures train you to notice details others overlook. Meals are quiet and structured. You do not eat first. You do not choose where to sit. You wait, observing when others begin, how they hold their bowls, how they set them down. Conversation is minimal, not unfriendly but purposeful. Food is nourishment, not indulgence, and even this moment follows etiquette. The woman who oversees the house watches everything. She does not hover, yet nothing escapes her attention. When she speaks, it is direct and measured. She is responsible for your development now, and though she may not show warmth in obvious ways, her authority forms the foundation of your future. You quickly learn that approval is rarely spoken aloud. Instead, it is shown through the absence of correction. Days pass, and you begin to notice distinctions between those who live here. The younger ones, like yourself, perform errands and chores. The more advanced apprentices move with increasing refinement, attending lessons and practicing arts. The fully trained geisha appear less often, leaving in the late afternoon and returning at night, their presence calm yet commanding. You watch them carefully, fascinated by the transformation they undergo before stepping out into the world. At this stage, you are not yet allowed to join formal artistic training. Instead, you are expected to prepare yourself. You run errands through nearby streets, always under instruction, always mindful of how you walk, how you bow, how you speak to shopkeepers. You represent the house even now, though you feel you have done nothing to earn that responsibility. Mistakes are inevitable. You forget to bow deeply enough. You turn the wrong direction when entering a room. You speak too quickly. Each error is corrected immediately, not harshly but unmistakably. Precision is not optional, it is the environment itself. Gradually your body begins to change. You learn to kneel without discomfort, to carry objects steadily, to walk with smaller steps. These adjustments feel unnatural at first, like wearing clothing that does not fit. Over time they become instinctive. You stop thinking about them. Your posture straightens without effort. Your hands settle into composed positions when at rest. You also begin lessons in awareness and education that has no textbooks. You are taught to read mood, to recognize unspoken cues, to sense when someone senior requires assistance before they ask. This sensitivity is essential. The world you are entering values perception as much as performance. Occasionally you are allowed to watch dance practice from the edge of the room. You sit silently, careful not to distract. The movements you witness are deliberate and restrained, nothing like the expressive dances you may have imagined. Each turn of the wrist, each shift of weight, conveys emotion through subtlety rather than exaggeration. The discipline required is immense. Watching becomes its own form of study. You memorize rhythms, gestures, patterns of behavior. You begin to realize that mastery here is not dramatist, it is controlled, almost invisible. Excellence reveals itself in what is not done, in what is withheld. As weeks turn into months, the unfamiliar becomes routine. The house no longer feels like a place you have entered, it feels like a system you inhabit. You know which floorboards sound under pressure, which rooms catch the morning light, which tasks must be completed before others awaken. The structure that once felt restrictive now provides clarity. Every day has direction. Every action contributes to something larger than yourself. Yet there are moments of quiet reflection, usually late at night when the house settles and the sounds of returning footsteps fade. You think about how much has changed. The pace of your old life, the casual freedoms you once had, seem distant and almost unreal. Here, time is measured differently, not by clocks, but by progress, repetition, and endurance. You begin to understand that becoming a Maiko is not a sudden transformation. It is a gradual reshaping. The purpose of this early stage is not to teach you how to perform, but to prepare you to receive instruction without resistance. Before you can learn art, you must learn discipline. Before you can embody elegance, you must practice restraint. There is comfort in this structure, even if it is demanding. You are not expected to invent yourself. You are expected to absorb, to refine, to persist. The house has seen many girls arrive uncertain and leave accomplished. Its methods are time-tested, its expectations unwavering. And so your days continue, each one building quietly upon the last. You sweep, observe, assist, listen, and learn. You begin to sense that you are standing at the threshold of something vast, a tradition carried forward through countless lives before yours. You are not yet part of it, not fully, but you are being shaped to enter it. This is only the beginning, though it does not feel small. It feels like the laying of a foundation so deep you cannot yet see what will rise above it. Every correction, every chore, every silent observation is a stone placed carefully into that base. One day, without ceremony, you will be told you are ready to begin formal training. There will be no announcement, no celebration, just a new set of expectations, more demanding than the last. Until then, your task is simple and profound: to learn how to belong to this world before you attempt to shine within it. Your formal training does not begin with an announcement. There is no ceremony to mark the shift, no moment where someone declares that you have crossed from preparation into education. Instead, one morning your routine changes. After the usual cleaning tasks are completed, you are told to accompany an older apprentice. You follow her quietly, unsure of what is expected, aware only that something new has begun. The lesson room is simple: tatami mats, a low stand, carefully arranged instruments. Nothing appears extraordinary, yet the atmosphere is different from the rest of the house. It is focused, almost weighty, as if every sound made here must justify itself. You kneel where instructed. The teacher enters. You bow. The lesson begins. At first you are not taught movement. You are taught how to sit. Your knees must align. Your back must remain straight without appearing rigid. Your shoulders must relax while maintaining form. Even your breathing is corrected: too shallow and you appear nervous, too deep and you seem theatrical. The goal is balance, a natural composure that does not call attention to itself. You begin to understand that training here is not about adding skills, but about refining what already exists. Every habit you brought with you is examined and reshaped. The way you reach for an object, the pace of your steps, the inclination of your head when listening is adjusted again and again until it aligns with tradition. Dance lessons follow, though they are unlike anything you expected. There is no sweeping music at first, no expressive flourish. You learn how to walk across the room in measured steps, then how to turn, then how to extend your hand. These actions are repeated dozens of times, sometimes for an entire lesson. The teacher rarely praises you. Instead, corrections come in small, precise observations. Too fast. Your wrist is tense. You are thinking about the movement instead of feeling it. You repeat the motion until the correction is no longer necessary. Only then do you move to the next. This repetition is exhausting in a way physical labor is not. Your muscles ache, but more than that, your concentration begins to waver. You must remain attentive to every detail, holding awareness in your posture, your breathing, your timing. There is no room for distraction. Even your thoughts must learn discipline. Music lessons introduce another layer of complexity. The shamisen rests heavier in your hands than it appears. Your fingers must press the strings firmly yet gracefully, producing tones that are neither forced nor weak. At first, the sounds you create feel clumsy, disconnected from the elegance you are meant to achieve. You practice basic notes again and again. The teacher listens without expression. If the tone is wrong, she stops you immediately. If it is correct, she allows you to continue without comment. Silence becomes its own form of feedback. Hours pass this way, marked not by conversation but by rhythm and repetition. Beyond dance and music, you study etiquette with equal intensity. You learn how to open a sliding door soundlessly, how to pour tea without allowing the kettle lid to rattle, how to place an object so that it faces the recipient correctly. These actions may seem minor, yet they are performed with the same seriousness as artistic training. You begin to see that refinement is not reserved for performance, it must exist in everything you do. Afternoons are often filled with memorization. You learn seasonal customs, traditional sayings, and fragments of poetry that may be used in conversation. You are taught when to speak of cherry blossoms, when to mention autumn leaves, when silence is more appropriate than any clever remark. Knowledge is not gathered randomly, it is curated to match the rhythm of the year. Your teachers expect you to understand context as deeply as content. As weeks become months, your schedule grows more demanding. A typical day begins before sunrise, followed by household responsibilities, then hours of lessons. After a brief rest, you rehearse independently, repeating movements and melodies until they feel inseparable from your body. Evening may bring observation of senior apprentices preparing for engagements, where you watch closely, absorbing details you will one day need. Fatigue becomes constant, yet you are not permitted to show it. Endurance is part of your training. Composure must exist regardless of how tired you feel. There are moments when frustration surfaces. A movement you believed you mastered is corrected again. A melody you practiced for days still lacks the proper tone. Progress is slow, often invisible. You learn patience not because it is encouraged, but because there is no alternative. Gradually, however, small changes begin to appear. Your steps grow quieter. Your hands move with less hesitation. The instrument feels less foreign. Teachers interrupt you less frequently. These subtle signs mark advancement more clearly than any spoken acknowledgement. Hierarchy among apprentices becomes more noticeable as well. Those who have trained longer carry themselves differently. Their confidence is restrained but evident, their corrections fewer, their responsibilities greater. You look to them as examples, measuring your own development against theirs. Competition exists, though it is rarely spoken of openly. Each apprentice strives to improve, aware that reputation will shape future opportunities. Yet rivalry is tempered by shared hardship. You practice together, endure the same demanding instruction, and recognize in one another the same mixture of determination and exhaustion. Seasons change and training adjusts with them. In warmer months, movements must appear lighter, matching the atmosphere of summer gatherings. In winter, gestures become more contained, reflecting the quiet stillness of the season. Even artistic expression follows the natural world. You are taught that art is never separate from environment, it must echo it. There are days devoted entirely to review. Teachers revisit fundamentals you thought you had already learned, reminding you that mastery requires constant return to basics. No matter how advanced you become, the foundation must remain flawless. This insistence on repetition reshapes your understanding of progress. Instead of striving toward a final goal, you begin to see training as a cycle of refinement without end. Emotionally, the journey is complex. There are moments of pride when you complete a lesson without correction, moments of doubt when improvement feels distant, moments of quiet satisfaction when practice flows smoothly. You learn to manage these feelings internally. Outwardly, your expression remains composed. Resilience grows not from encouragement, but from persistence. As your skills develop, teachers begin combining elements. You must play music while maintaining posture. You must perform movements while remaining aware of your surroundings. You must remember etiquette even while concentrating on artistic expression. Multitasking becomes essential, blending disciplines into a seamless whole. Mistakes at this stage are more noticeable because expectations have risen. You are no longer treated as someone simply learning, you are being shaped into someone who must perform. Observation of experienced geisha now carries deeper meaning. You notice details that once escaped youth: timing of a gesture, the subtle adjustment of tone in conversation, the effortless way they seem to inhabit the role you are still struggling to master. Their skill no longer appears mysterious. You can see the structure beneath it, the years of repetition that made such ease possible. This realization is both inspiring and daunting. You begin to understand the scale of what lies ahead. Training is not a temporary phase, it is a transformation measured in years. There will always be another refinement, another nuance to learn, another layer of discipline to absorb. Yet alongside the difficulty there is clarity. Your days have purpose, your efforts accumulate. The structure that once felt overwhelming now guides you forward, step by deliberate step. By the time months of instruction have passed, you are no longer the uncertain beginner who entered the lesson room unsure of how to sit. You carry yourself differently. Your awareness has sharpened. Your movements, though still imperfect, reflect intention rather than imitation. Training continues, unrelenting and precise, shaping not only what you can do, but who you are becoming. The transformation does not happen all at once. It begins quietly, with small adjustments that seem insignificant on their own. Yet together they alter how you are seen and how you see yourself. At first, you are simply told to observe more closely when senior apprentices prepare for the evening. You kneel at a respectful distance, watching as fabrics are unfolded, brushes arranged, ornaments selected. Nothing is rushed. Every object is handled as though it carries weight beyond its physical form. Clothing here is not merely worn. It is constructed. The kimono is the first element that reveals this truth. When laid flat, it appears like an expanse of silk, patterned with scenes from nature: flowers, flowing water, branches bending under snow. You might once have thought such garments were chosen for beauty alone, but you soon learned that each design corresponds to season, occasion, and status. A pattern that is appropriate in spring would feel out of place in autumn. Colors that suit a young apprentice would be considered too vibrant for someone more advanced. The garment communicates before you speak. Dressing is never done alone. Another pair of hands is required, sometimes two. Layers are added one by one, each aligned precisely. The undergarments must sit smoothly to prevent disrupting the outer silhouette. The collar is adjusted repeatedly, pulled slightly back to reveal the nape of the neck in a way considered graceful. If the angle is wrong, the entire balance of the appearance is lost, and the process must begin again. You are taught to remain still during this ritual. Shifting your weight or fidgeting can undo minutes of careful work. Patience becomes physical, not just mental. Then comes the obi, the wide sash that anchors everything. It is heavier than you expect, firm and unyielding as it is wrapped and tied. The knot at the back is elaborate, shaped according to your level of training. For an apprentice, it is often long and flowing, almost trailing, emphasizing youth and formality. The weight forces your posture into alignment. Slouching becomes impossible. Each breath must adjust to the gentle restriction around your torso. At first, the sensation is uncomfortable. You feel contained, constrained, as though movement has been narrowed. Yet over time, your body adapts. You begin to move differently, not because you are told to, but because the clothing demands it. Steps grow shorter. Turns become deliberate. The garment teaches you how to carry it. Hairstyling is another world of discipline. Unlike modern routines that allow for daily change, this process is designed to endure. Your hair is shaped into a specific style that must last for days. Wax is applied, sections smoothed and formed, ornaments placed with careful symmetry. The finished structure is both beautiful and fragile. You must learn how to sleep without disturbing it, resting on a raised support rather than a pillow so that the arrangement remains intact. The first nights are difficult. You wake often, afraid you have shifted too much. But eventually you learn how to rest without undoing what has been built. Even sleep becomes part of training. Ornaments are not decorative afterthoughts, they are signals. Their materials, shapes, and placement reflect time of year and stage of apprenticeship. In certain months they may resemble blossoms. In others they suggest falling leaves or icy stillness. The intention is not to imitate nature literally but to echo its mood. The face, when it is finally prepared, undergoes the most striking transformation. A white base is applied carefully, smoothed across skin in even layers. It is cool at first, then gradually settles, forming a surface that feels both foreign and strangely protective. This is not makeup meant to enhance individuality. It creates uniformity, turning the face into a canvas upon which expression must be conveyed through subtlety. The back of the neck is left partially unpainted in a deliberate pattern. You are told this area draws attention because it reveals both strength and vulnerability. Such details carry meanings that have been preserved for generations, explained sparingly yet demonstrated constantly. Red pigment defines the eyes and lips, though not fully at first. As an apprentice, your lips may be colored only in part, symbolizing that your training is incomplete. These visual cues allow others to read your status instantly, without introduction. When you first see your reflection after this process, the sensation is disorienting. The person looking back resembles you, yet not entirely. Familiar features are present, but they are framed by tradition rather than personal choice. You realize that appearance here is not about self-expression, it is about stepping into a role shaped long before you arrived. Learning to move while dressed this way requires practice equal to your artistic lessons. Sitting, standing, walking through narrow doorways, even reaching for an object must be reconsidered. The sleeves are longer, the fabric less forgiving. A careless motion can disrupt the lines of the garment or appear inelegant. You rehearse these everyday actions repeatedly. Entering a room becomes choreography. Kneeling must be done without allowing the fabric to bunch or twist. Rising requires controlled strength, so that nothing shifts out of place. Weather introduces new challenges. In summer, layers feel warm, and maintaining composure despite discomfort becomes essential. In winter, the weight provides insulation, yet movements must remain fluid despite the added bulk. You are taught never to show strain. The illusion of ease must remain intact regardless of temperature. Maintenance of these garments is itself an education. You learn how they are folded, stored, inspected, and handled. Silk is sensitive, it demands respect. A careless touch can damage threads that took months to weave. Understanding this care deepens your appreciation of the craftsmanship behind each piece. Gradually, you notice how the transformation affects not just your appearance, but your mindset. When dressed in this manner, you become more aware of every gesture. The clothing does not allow absent-mindedness, it insists on presence. You also begin to understand that individuality is not erased, but redirected. Personality emerges through nuance rather than bold display through timing, posture, tone of voice. The uniformity of appearance allows small differences to carry greater meaning. Senior practitioners demonstrate how mastery changes the way these garments are inhabited. On them the weight seems lighter, the movements more natural. Their clothing does not control them, they have learned to work in harmony with it. Watching them reveals that what feels restrictive now can one day feel seamless. Public presentation brings another layer of awareness. When you step outside dressed in full formality for the first time, you sense the attention immediately. People notice, not necessarily you as an individual, but what you represent. The clothing signals tradition moving through a modern world, something rare enough to draw quiet curiosity. You are taught never to react to this attention. A composed gaze, a measured step, and steady focus must be maintained. The role continues beyond the walls of the house. Over time, the process that once seemed elaborate becomes familiar. You learn to anticipate each stage, the layering of fabric, the tightening of the obi, the cool application of makeup, the careful placement of ornaments. What once required constant instruction begins to flow as a practice sequence. Yet the ritual never becomes casual. Even after repetition, it retains its sense of importance. Each preparation is treated as a renewal, a deliberate step into responsibility. The transformation is not meant to conceal who you are, but to align you with something larger. It reminds you that you are participating in an art form expressed not only through performance, but through presence itself. By the time you have lived within this process long enough, the mirror no longer shows a stranger. It shows someone shaped by discipline, patience, and continuity. The garments, the styling, the carefully constructed appearance seal of it has become an extension of your training, a visible reflection of the unseen effort behind it. And so what began as costume reveals itself as something far more enduring. A language spoken without words, carried in silk, color, and form, telling a story that you are still learning how to inhabit. Evening does not arrive suddenly in your new life. It approaches gradually, marked by a shift in rhythm rather than by the setting sun. During the late afternoon the house begins to change. The earlier sounds of lessons and chores fade, replaced by a quieter, more deliberate preparation. Conversations grow softer, movements become more measured. You sense that the most important part of the day is about to begin. You are expected to be ready before you are called. There is no rushing at this stage. Everything must already be in order, your clothing arranged perfectly, your posture composed, your mind focused. The transformation you practiced earlier now finds its purpose. This is when training meets reality. Senior women prepare alongside you, but their calm is different. Where you may still feel anticipation or uncertainty, they carry assurance built from years of repetition. Watching them is itself an education. They do not check their appearance repeatedly. They trust the process because they have lived it countless times. Their confidence is quiet, almost invisible, yet unmistakable. When it is time to leave, there is no announcement. A subtle signal passes through the house, and movement begins. You follow, careful to match the pace set before you. Outside, the air feels different from the controlled stillness indoors. Sounds of the wider world return, distant voices, footsteps, the faint rumble of carts or passing travelers. Yet you must remain separate from that world, carrying with you the composed atmosphere of the house. Walking in full dress requires concentration. The garments guide your stride, reminding you to move neither too quickly nor too slowly. You learn to glide rather than step, allowing the fabric to sway naturally. Your gaze must remain soft, never fixed on the ground, yet never wandering aimlessly. Even this journey is part of your role, because you are visible now. Arrival at the teahouse brings another transition. The entrance is modest, almost understated, but inside it holds an environment carefully arranged for hospitality. Light is gentle, filtered through paper screens. The scent of prepared food mingles with polished wood and faint incense. Everything is designed to create comfort without excess. You enter with practiced formality. Greetings are exchanged through bows rather than words at first. Each bow differs slightly depending on whom you address. These distinctions, once confusing, now unfold almost instinctively. You begin to feel how etiquette shapes interaction, creating harmony before conversation even begins. Guests arrive with their own expectations. Some come seeking relaxation, others companionship, others the pleasure of witnessing tradition. Your responsibility is not simply to serve them, but to understand what kind of presence each person requires. This sensitivity cannot be memorized, it must be felt in the moment. You kneel to prepare tea. The act is deliberate yet unforced. Every movement you practice now carries meaning: the way you lift the kettle, the angle of your wrist, the quiet placement of the cup. These gestures must appear natural, never mechanical, even though they are the result of countless hours of repetition. Conversation begins slowly. You are not expected to dominate it. Instead, you listen carefully, responding with thoughtful remarks, guiding discussion gently when needed. Humor may arise, but it is restrained, never loud or disruptive. The goal is balance, allowing guests to feel both engaged and at ease. Music becomes part of the evening's texture. When you play, the notes should not demand attention but enhance the atmosphere. You focus on tone, ensuring it carries warmth without overpowering the room. This balance is delicate. Too much intensity can disrupt the mood, too little can make the performance feel distant. Dance follows at appropriate moments. The movements you learned in practice now unfold within a living space rather than a lesson room. The floor beneath you is no longer empty but shared with observers whose awareness you must acknowledge without addressing directly. Your gestures must reach them without seeming directed at anyone in particular. Time moves differently during these gatherings. Hours pass without feeling hurried. There is no sense of performance beginning or ending. Instead, the evening flows as a continuous experience shaped by conversation, music, and shared presence. You begin to understand that success lies in subtlety. If guests feel relaxed, if laughter arises naturally, if silence feels comfortable rather than awkward, then you have done your work well. Your role is to create an environment where such moments can happen. Attention to detail remains constant. You notice when a cup is nearly empty and refill it before being asked. You adjust seating arrangements discreetly to maintain comfort. You observe changes in mood and adapt your behavior accordingly. These actions are rarely acknowledged aloud, yet they form the foundation of the experience. At times, you feel the weight of responsibility. There is no script to follow, no single correct response to every situation. You must rely on awareness developed through training, trusting your judgment while remaining within tradition. This balance between structure and intuition is one of the most challenging aspects of your role. Fatigue may begin to surface as the evening deepens, but it must never be visible. Your expression remains composed, your posture steady. Endurance is not only physical but emotional, requiring you to sustain attentiveness long after your body wishes to rest. You also witness the skill of those more experienced. They guide conversations effortlessly, introduce humor at just the right moment, and maintain harmony without appearing to intervene. Their mastery shows how years of dedication transform effort into ease. As the gathering gradually concludes, there is no abrupt ending. Departures are handled with the same care as arrivals. Guests are thanked through gestures and words chosen precisely for the occasion. You escort them respectfully, ensuring their final impression matches the tone set at the beginning. Only after they leave does the atmosphere shift again. The quiet that returns is different from the calm of early morning. It carries the residue of activity, like the echo of music fading into stillness. You help restore the space, returning objects to their places, ensuring nothing remains out of order. The journey back is quieter. Streets that once felt lively now seem reflective, mirroring your own state of mind. You walk with the same composure, though inside you may replay moments from the evening, considering what you handled well and what you could improve. Back at the house, the process of removing the formal layers begins. It is slower than you expect, almost meditative. As each piece is carefully untied and folded, you feel the physical weight lift, yet the discipline remains. Nothing is discarded casually. Every garment is handled with respect before being stored. When at last you are free from the elaborate preparation, you realize that the role does not simply disappear. The awareness cultivated throughout the evening lingers. You move more quietly, think more deliberately, even in these private moments. Sleep comes late, and it is often brief. Yet despite exhaustion, there is a sense of purpose. Each evening adds another layer of experience, another opportunity to refine what cannot be perfected in practice alone. Through repetition, uncertainty begins to fade. You learn to anticipate the rhythm of gatherings, to trust your preparation, to inhabit the role more naturally. What once felt like performance gradually becomes presence. Evenings are no longer something you endure. They become the space where training finds meaning, where discipline transforms into living tradition, and where your efforts contribute to something shared between host and guest, fleeting yet carefully shaped. And with each night you carry that experience back with you, allowing it to inform the next, until the boundary between learning and doing grows almost indistinguishable. Discipline reveals itself most clearly not in the moments of ceremony, but in the ordinary hours when no one is watching. After the novelty of training and the careful excitement of your first evenings fade, what remains is structure unyielding, repetitive, and constant. This is the stage where many discover whether they truly belong, because here, there is little external reward. Progress is slow. Recognition is rare. Expectation, however, never relaxes. Your day begins before your body feels ready. There is no gradual waking. The sound of movement in the house signals that time has already started, and you must immediately align yourself with it. Even fatigue must follow etiquette. You rise, fold bedding precisely, prepare yourself, and step into responsibilities that have already been underway. Chores continue long after you have learned how to perform them. Cleaning does not disappear once artistic training begins, it remains a daily requirement. The purpose is no longer instruction, you already know how to do these tasks, but reinforcement. Repetition grounds you, reminding you that no level of advancement removes the need for humility. The hierarchy within the house becomes more defined as you spend time within it. You are aware of who is senior, who is junior, who is progressing more quickly, and who is struggling. These distinctions are rarely spoken aloud, yet they influence everything from seating arrangements to the order in which tasks are assigned. Respect must be demonstrated constantly, not through grand gestures, but through attentiveness. Anticipating needs, offering assistance, never placing yourself forward unnecessarily. Correction is still frequent. Even after months or years, teachers and seniors will adjust a movement, a phrase, or a posture. At first, such corrections felt like instruction. Now they feel like refinement and ongoing shaping that never quite ends. You begin to understand that mastery is not a destination but a condition maintained through vigilance. Financial responsibility enters your awareness as well. The garments you wear, the lessons you receive, the lodging and meals provided all carry cost. These are not gifts but investments made in your future. You are reminded, sometimes gently and sometimes firmly, that your efforts must one day repay what has been given. This knowledge adds weight to every practice session and every engagement. Your dedication is not only artistic, it is practical. Time, once divided between clear stages of work and rest, now blurs. Practice fills whatever space is available. If you have a spare moment, you review a melody. If you walk down a hallway, you consider posture. If you pour tea for yourself, you do so as though observed. Training seeps into every action until there is little distinction between rehearsal and living. There are moments when exhaustion presses heavily. The body resists constant formality. Knees ache from kneeling, shoulders tighten from maintaining posture, and sleep never seems quite long enough. Yet outwardly, nothing must change. Composure is not conditional. It must exist regardless of discomfort. Emotional discipline is equally demanding. You must learn to accept criticism without defensiveness, to receive praise without pride, and to maintain steadiness regardless of comparison with others. It is easy to measure yourself against fellow apprentices, to feel discouraged if someone advances more quickly or uneasy if you receive more attention. But such thoughts must be managed quietly. Harmony within the house depends on restraint not only of behavior but of ego. Relationships form, though they are shaped by the environment. You share long days with the same people, experience the same pressures, and develop a mutual understanding that does not require explanation. Conversation during rare moments of relaxation is often subdued, marked by shared fatigue, rather than animated excitement. These connections are not casual friendships, they are bonds formed through endurance. Expectations from outside the house also grow. Patrons, instructors, and observers begin to recognize your face. With recognition comes accountability. A single careless action in public could reflect not just on you but on everyone connected to you. This awareness sharpens your caution. You become mindful of how you walk even when running an errand, how you speak even when exchanging simple words. At times, the weight of constant observation feels isolating. There is little space where you can behave entirely without consideration. Yet gradually this awareness transforms into something less burdensome. Instead of feeling watched, you feel aligned. The habits you once forced become natural responses. Seasons continue to mark the passage of time, but now they are measured more by progress than by calendar. You notice how your understanding deepens from one year to the next. How movements once difficult now feel familiar, how conversations flow more easily, how preparation requires less conscious thought. These changes are subtle, visible only when you look back. Still, there are setbacks. A performance may not go as well as expected. A teacher may express disappointment. Illness or fatigue may interrupt your rhythm. Such moments test resilience more than skill. You must return to routine without dwelling on frustration, trusting that consistency will restore balance. The idea of personal sacrifice becomes clearer the longer you remain. Opportunities common to other spontaneous travel, leisure, forming attachments outside the profession are limited or postponed. Your schedule is rarely your own to shape. Yet this limitation also creates focus. Without constant distraction, you invest deeply in what you are doing. Gradually, pride emerges, not loud or boastful, but steady. It comes from knowing how much effort lies behind even the simplest action. When you kneel gracefully or respond to a guest with ease, you understand the years of discipline supporting that moment. This awareness gives quiet confidence. Responsibility increases as you grow more capable. Younger apprentices begin to look to you as you once looked to others. You correct them gently, demonstrate techniques, and model behavior. Teaching, even informally, reinforces your own knowledge. It reminds you how far you have come while showing how far there still is to go. The house itself feels different now. Where once it seemed strict and unfamiliar, it has become structured and purposeful. You know its rhythms, intimate lithe times of greatest activity, the quietest corners, the subtle signals that guide daily life. You are no longer adjusting to it, you are sustaining it. Discipline, you realize, is not imposed solely from outside. It has taken root within you. You practice because you cannot imagine neglecting to do so. You maintain posture because it feels natural. You prepare carefully because anything less would feel incomplete. What once required effort has become identity. Yet there is always another level ahead, another refinement to pursue. The path does not end with competence. It extends forward, asking for continued attention, continued humility, continued care. This ongoing demand is not meant to burden you, but to keep the tradition alive through constant renewal. And so you continue, day after structured day, carrying forward a discipline that is no longer just training, but the framework through which you live. The transition does not feel like a sudden crossing from one life into another. There is no single morning when you awaken transformed, no dramatic acknowledgement that you have reached a new status. Instead, the change becomes visible through a series of small recognitions. Responsibilities shift, expectations deepen. The way others address you grows subtly different. Without announcement, you begin to stand not as a student being shaped, but as someone now expected to embody what was taught. Preparation still fills your days, but it carries a new character. Where once you practiced to understand, now you practice to refine. Movements you repeated endlessly as an apprentice are no longer exercises, they are tools you must wield with consistency. You are trusted to manage them without constant correction. Teachers intervene less often, not because the standards have lowered, but because you are expected to recognize and adjust your own imperfections. This independence is both liberating and demanding. Without frequent instruction, you must become your own critic. You replay performances in your mind, noticing where timing faltered or expression could have been more nuanced. Improvement no longer comes from being told what to do, but from cultivating awareness sharp enough to guide yourself. Your appearance evolves alongside your role. The garments remain formal, but their style becomes more restrained. Colors soften. Patterns grow less elaborate. The visual message shifts from youthful display to quiet assurance. This change is not meant to diminish beauty, but to emphasize maturity. Elegance now lies in subtlety rather than ornament. You learn that presence can command attention without seeking it. Engagements in the evening also feel different. You are no longer accompanying others simply to observe or assist. You are expected to carry conversations, to guide the atmosphere, to sense when to introduce music or silence. Guests respond to you not as a trainee, but as a professional. Their trust requires you to remain steady, regardless of circumstance. Confidence develops slowly. At first you may question whether you are truly ready to lead these moments. Yet experience accumulates. A successful gathering reinforces your instincts. A challenging one sharpens your adaptability. Over time, hesitation gives way to calm assurance grounded not in certainty, but in preparation. You begin to understand that mastery is less about flawless execution and more about resilience. There will always be unpredictability, ability in mood, unexpected requests, subtle tensions within a group. Your role is to respond without disruption, preserving harmony through flexibility and attentiveness. Relationships within your community also change. Those who once instructed you now treat you as a colleague. Their guidance remains, but it is offered through conversation rather than correction. Meanwhile, younger apprentices look to you for example. You see in them the same uncertainty you once carried, and you recognize your responsibility to provide steadiness without overshadowing their growth. Teaching becomes an extension of learning. Demonstrating a movement forces you to consider it more deeply. Explaining etiquette reminds you why it matters. Through helping others progress, your own understanding strengthens. Time itself begins to feel different. During your apprenticeship, years seemed measured by milestones, lessons completed, skills acquired, stages achieved. Now time flows in cycles rather than steps. Each season brings familiar customs renewed. Each year revisits traditions that never truly change, yet always feel slightly different because you have changed. This continuity creates a sense of belonging that cannot be rushed. You are no longer striving to enter the tradition, you are sustaining it. There are moments of reflection when you realize how much has been internalized. Actions that once required careful thought now happen effortlessly. You no longer calculate how to kneel or pour tea, your body understands. This ease is not casualness, but the result of discipline practiced until it became instinct. Yet the journey does not conclude here. Completion is an illusion. Even those with decades of experience continue refining their art, searching for deeper expression within familiar forms. You come to accept that there is no final state of arrival, only continued dedication. Outside the structured world you inhabit, society changes rapidly. New fashions appear, technologies evolve, daily life grows faster. You witness these shifts, but your work remains anchored in continuity. Rather than resisting change, you provide contrast to it. Your presence offers a reminder that not everything must move quickly to remain meaningful. Balancing tradition with modern reality requires awareness. You must navigate contemporary expectations while preserving practices shaped long ago. This balance is delicate, demanding sensitivity and adaptability without compromising integrity. There are sacrifices, as there always have been. Personal time is limited. Privacy can be scarce. The responsibility to uphold reputation never fades. Yet these sacrifices feel different now. They are no longer imposed conditions of training, but conscious choices tied to the life you have embraced. Fulfillment arrives in unexpected ways. It may appear in the quiet gratitude of a guest who felt at ease, in the successful execution of a performance that once seemed impossibly difficult, or in the realization that you are part of something enduring. You come to value these moments not for recognition, but for continuity. As years pass, memory intertwines with practice. You recall your earliest days of uncertainty, the long hours of repetition, the weight of expectations that once felt overwhelming. Those experiences do not vanish, they remain present, shaping your empathy and strengthening your resolve. Eventually, you understand that what you have inherited is not simply a profession, but stewardship. The knowledge, gestures, and sensibilities entrusted to you exist because others preserved them before your time. Your role is to carry them forward, adding your own quiet contribution without altering their essence. In this realization, purpose becomes clear. You continue preparing each day with care, continuing each performance with attention, continuing each interaction with respect. The routines that once felt demanding now provide rhythm. The discipline that once felt external now arises naturally from within. And so your life moves forward, not defined by a single transformation, but by an ongoing commitment to refinement, presence, and continuity. Each day repeats familiar patterns, yet each repetition holds the opportunity to deepen understanding. There is no final moment when the journey is declared complete. Instead, it unfolds continuously, shaped by dedication sustained over years, carried quietly into the future through the choices you make, the standards you uphold, and the traditions you live rather than simply perform. With the passing of more years, the rhythm that once felt demanding becomes inseparable from the way you understand time itself. You no longer divide life into training and performance, work and rest, effort and reward. Everything exists along the same continuum, shaped by attention and repetition. What once required discipline now requires intention and active choice to remain present in practices that have become familiar. Mornings arrive more quietly now. You wake not because you must force yourself into routine, but because your body has learned the cadence so completely that it anticipates the day before it begins. The house is often still when you rise, and in that stillness you sense the accumulated years within its walls. There is comfort in these early moments, when the air has not yet filled with activity and you can prepare yourself without urgency. Preparation has simplified. The elaborate processes remain, yet you move through them with an economy of motion that comes only from long experience. Where once you needed guidance, you now trust your own hands. Each fold of fabric, each adjustment, each small decision reflects knowledge built slowly over time. Nothing is rushed, but nothing is hesitant either. As you step outside, the world appears both changed and unchanged. Buildings may have been repaired, shops replaced, seasons cycling endlessly, yet the path you walk carries memories layered upon one another. You recall earlier days when each outing felt like a test. Now it feels like continuity, a thread you continue weaving rather than something you must grasp. Your role within gatherings has also matured. You are no longer focused on proving your skill. Instead, you concentrate on shaping experiences with quiet assurance. Conversation flows more naturally because you are less concerned with choosing the perfect response and more attuned to listening deeply. You understand now that true refinement lies in making others feel at ease without noticing the effort behind it. This stage brings a subtle shift in how you perceive success. In earlier years, progress could be measured: fewer mistakes, greater confidence, recognition from teachers or guests. Now achievement is quieter. It may appear as balance maintained during a difficult evening, or harmony restored without anyone realizing it was ever threatened. These moments pass without applause, yet they hold meaning precisely because they are invisible. You begin to take on responsibilities that extend beyond performance. Decisions about scheduling, preparation, and the mentoring of younger practitioners gradually involve you. At first, this feels unfamiliar. You are accustomed to receiving structure, not shaping it. Yet you discover that leadership here is not about authority, it is about example. Others observe how you carry yourself, how you resolve challenges, how you maintain standards. Teaching becomes a natural extension of this role. You show newcomers how to handle objects, how to adjust posture, how to interpret subtle cues. Often you recognize your former self in their uncertainty. You remember how overwhelming it once seemed, and this memory guides your patience. Instruction is given firmly but with understanding, because you know transformation cannot be rushed. Through mentoring, you realize that knowledge deepens when shared. Explaining a gesture forces you to consider its purpose again. Demonstrating a movement renews your own attention to detail. The act of guiding others keeps your practice alive, preventing it from becoming automatic. There are moments of nostalgia, though you rarely express them aloud. Certain songs, certain seasonal arrangements, certain familiar preparations call back memories of earlier stages in your life. These recollections do not distract you; instead, they add depth, reminding you that every practitioner contributes a personal layer to an ongoing tradition. Physical endurance changes with time, requiring adjustments. Movements once effortless may demand more care. You learn to pace yourself, to rely on precision rather than strength. This adaptation is not a decline, but another form of refinement, choosing efficiency over excess, intention over display. The environment around you continues to evolve. Visitors bring new perspectives, unfamiliar questions, different expectations. Rather than resisting these changes, you learn to interpret them within the framework you uphold. The essence of your work remains constant even as circumstances shift. This balance between preservation and responsiveness becomes one of your most important skills. There are evenings when you pause, if only briefly, to observe rather than participate. Watching younger performers step into roles you once held brings a quiet satisfaction. You see how the structure that shaped you now shapes them, continuing without interruption. The realization that the tradition will endure beyond your own years is both humbling and reassuring. Private moments grow more meaningful as well. Time spent maintaining garments, reviewing music, or simply sitting in reflection feels less like obligation and more like connection to the craft, to the people who practiced it before you, and to those who will continue after. You come to understand that your identity is no longer separate from what you do. The discipline you learned has altered how you approach everything, how you listen, how you move, how you consider the passage of time. Even outside formal settings, traces of that awareness remain. Occasionally you encounter individuals who view your life with curiosity or misunderstanding. They may imagine it as purely aesthetic, defined only by outward appearance. You respond politely, knowing that the deeper reality cannot be fully explained. It must be lived to be understood. Countless hours, the restraint, the patience, the quiet persistence. Recognition, when it comes, is received modestly. You have learned that praise is fleeting, while dedication must continue regardless of acknowledgement. Satisfaction arises not from being seen, but from knowing you have upheld the standards entrusted to you. As the years accumulate, you become more conscious of legacy. Not in a grand sense, but in daily actions. Each correction you offer, each example you set, each tradition you maintain contributes to something that extends beyond personal experience. This awareness brings responsibility, yet also peace. You realize that what once felt like a path you were following has become one you help sustain. There are still challenges and unexpected changes, demanding schedules, moments of fatigue, but they no longer feel like obstacles to overcome. They are simply part of the ongoing practice, variations within a familiar pattern. And so life continues, measured not by milestones but by continuity. The routines remain, the evenings unfold, the seasons turn, and within that repetition lies quiet fulfillment. You are no longer striving to become part of this world. You are part of it, contributing to its endurance through presence, care, and the steady accumulation of days lived with intention. There comes a stage when the pace of your life no longer feels driven by instruction, obligation, or even ambition, but by continuity. The routines that once demanded effort now unfold with a kind of quiet inevitability, like the turning of seasons you no longer question. You wake, prepare, move through familiar spaces, and realize that what once required concentration now exists as instinct. Yet this instinct is not careless. It is layered with years of attention, and because of that, even the simplest act carries depth. You begin to notice details that earlier escaped you. The faint sound of fabric brushing against tatami as you walk, the difference in how light enters a room during early winter compared to late spring, the way conversations settle into stillness at certain moments, not from discomfort but from shared understanding. These observations are not part of formal training, yet they feel like the culmination of everything you were taught to see, to sense, to respond. Your role now includes something less visible but deeply significant: preservation of atmosphere. Younger practitioners can replicate movements and memorize forms, but atmosphere cannot be taught directly. It is conveyed through presence, through how you inhabit a room, how you allow time to unfold without rushing it. You realize that much of what you offer cannot be written down or demonstrated step by step. It must be absorbed through proximity. This awareness changes how you approach each engagement. You are less concerned with performing perfectly and more focused on shaping an environment where others can feel at ease. Sometimes this means speaking, sometimes it means allowing silence. Sometimes it means guiding conversation gently, other times it means stepping back so that others can shine. Knowing when to do each of these things becomes its own art. You also become more aware of impermanence. Gatherings end, seasons pass, familiar faces appear less often, and new ones take their place. At first these changes seem gradual, almost unnoticeable. Then one day you realize how much has shifted. A teacher who once corrected your every move now entrusts responsibilities entirely to you. A junior apprentice you once guided now stands confidently on her own. Time has moved, carrying all of you forward. Rather than resisting this, you learn to work within it. Tradition does not remain alive by freezing itself, it lives, because each generation inhabits it fully before passing it along. You are now part of that exchange, both recipient and giver. There are moments, often late at night after returning from an engagement, when you sit in stillness before removing the final pieces of your attire. The room is quiet, the air settled, and for a brief time you allow yourself to pause between roles. In these moments, memory and present experience overlap. You recall the uncertainty of your early days, the weight of expectation, the countless repetitions that once felt endless. Those efforts now seem less like struggles and more like threads woven into who you have become. Even fatigue feels different. It is no longer the exhaustion of striving but the natural tiredness that follows meaningful work. You rest not to recover from pressure but to prepare for continuation. Your connection to the craft deepens in subtle ways. You begin to appreciate elements you once took for granted: craftsmanship of garments, the precision of music, the balance between movement and stillness. These are no longer challenges to master, but companions you understand more fully with each passing year. You also find yourself thinking about what cannot be seen. The countless individuals before you who practiced the same gestures, followed the same rhythms, devoted themselves to the same ideals. Their presence is not tangible, yet you sense it in the continuity of the work. By maintaining these practices, you feel as though you are in conversation with them across time. Responsibility becomes quieter but more profound. It is no longer about meeting expectations placed upon you, it is about honoring something you have chosen to carry. This choice renews itself daily, not through grand declarations, but through the simple act of continuing. There are still challenges. Circumstances change, the world outside moves quickly, and maintaining relevance without losing authenticity requires careful thought. You adapt where necessary, always mindful of preserving the essence of what you represent. This balance demands awareness rather than rigidity, openness rather than resistance. Occasionally you allow yourself to step back and observe rather than lead. Watching others perform brings a different kind of satisfaction. You notice their concentration, their small uncertainties, their moments of success, and you recognize the same journey unfolding again. It reassures you that what you help sustain will not end with you. In quieter hours you may find yourself practicing alone, not because you must, but because the act itself feels grounding. The familiar sounds, the measured movements, the deliberate pace all create a sense of alignment. Practice has become less about improvement and more about connection. As years continue, recognition from others may increase, but it carries less importance than it once might have. External acknowledgement fades quickly. The deeper reward lies in knowing you have maintained integrity within your work. That knowledge is private, steady, and enduring. You come to understand that fulfillment here is not dramatic. It does not arrive as a single achievement or conclusion. Instead, it accumulates gradually through repetition, attention, and care. It is found in continuity rather than climax, and so your life moves forward in this measured way. Days resemble one another, yet none feel empty. Each contains opportunities to refine, to guide, to preserve, to participate. What began as training has become a way of being gone, shaped by discipline, enriched by experience, and sustained by quiet dedication. There is no final moment when everything is declared complete. The path simply continues, carried forward through the choices you make each day, through the example you leave behind, and through the understanding that the true legacy of your work is not a single performance, but the enduring rhythm you helped keep alive. To live as a geisha is to dedicate your entire existence to mastery of the fleeting. A gesture, a note of music, a shared moment that disappears as soon as it is created. It is a life not of fame but of refinement, not of freedom but of chosen discipline. And perhaps that is why the world continues to be fascinated. Because in an age of speed, the geisha reminds us that beauty can still require patience, and that art can still be a way of life. As an endnote, it's important to reflect on the journey you've taken and the lessons embedded within it. Life as a geisha or any path rooted in discipline, artistry, and tradition is less about fleeting recognition and more about the quiet accumulation of mastery, presence, and resilience. Each movement, each gesture, each choice of silence or speech contributes to something larger than yourself, a living tradition that connects past, present, and future. What this journey teaches us is that true artistry is not only about skill, but about patience, awareness, and the dedication to carry on a legacy with grace. In the end, the value lies not in being observed or praised, but in the integrity, refinement, and continuity that you cultivate every single day.